I paid $3,500 to freeze dry 2 candies that transform from being chewy to crunchy, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna wanna watch this video. That was a very exciting intro. Let me introduce myself. My name is David. I'm a freeze-dried business owner in Idaho. This channel is for people who are freeze drying as a business or looking into freeze drying, or maybe you're just looking to know what all this freeze drying craze is all about. In this video, I'm gonna share with you 2 candies that take the least amount of time to freeze dry and are the most popular for me. They change from a chewy state to a crunchy state, and that's caramel M&Ms and your favorite Skittles. So just a little bit of personal background about who I am. You might be wondering, what's this guy wearing a Cowboys jacket in Idaho? I've been a Cowboys fan ever since I was 5 years old. My grandparents sent us all types of memorabilia and apparel while we were growing up, so I've just always been a Cowboys fan. I am not a loyalist. I love football. I love the NFL. I know they're always going to lose in the playoffs, and they're probably never going to reach a Super Bowl as long as Jerry Jones is the owner. I may be waiting a long time for that, but I'll still be representing the Cowboys. So I'm filming today in my garage. This is where everything started because I was a cottage food operator, and I still have this freeze dryer. It's for my personal use and also testing different things. My family and I freeze dry a lot of fruits and vegetables, and sometimes we freeze dry candy because we have 2 little kids, and it's just great for food preservation and saving a lot of food waste. This is going to be a pretty easy video for candies because these are the 2 fastest freeze drying candies that I've found in terms of low labor to put together, and it takes the shortest amount of time to freeze dry in the dryer. So let's get to it. All right, let's get to the freeze dryer settings. So if you have version 23 or higher, you have the option to customize to candy mode, which just means you get to customize the drying amount of time and the dry temperature. So we press customize, and what we're going to do on caramel M&Ms and for Skittles, I'm going to do it at the same time. We're going to go all the way up to 140 degrees. Only need about 2 hours to freeze dry these candies. So press save. We're going to press start, and that gives us 15 minutes to start prepping the candy. What I've got here is I've got 5 trays, and that's the amount for this large freeze dryer from Harvest Right. I've also got this silicone mat because what I'm going to do with caramel M&Ms is I'm going to put each caramel M&M into here. It actually ends up expanding, as you'll see after we get done with the cycle. I like having the individual caramel M&M in each one of these because it just allows for the caramel M&Ms not to stick together, because I'm going to do another tray for you to show you what it looks like when you just throw all of them on just like we do with Skittles, so that you can kind of compare the 2 and see which one you might like to do. So let's get to putting these into here. I usually just like dumping a bunch on the silicone mat, and then I'll just take them individually and put them into the different molds. So one thing, if you're not familiar with freeze drying, or you're not familiar with freeze drying candy with chocolate, is chocolate doesn't really freeze dry because there's not much moisture in it. So usually chocolate just ends up melting and you don't have that kind of changing texture. But with the caramel M&M, there's caramel inside, and then the chocolate shell breaks apart. What I do once these break out and change their texture is I actually let these freeze. I either put them in the freezer or I let the chamber cool down after the cycle. It gets the chocolate kind of frozen, and that way when I store them into the bucket, there's not a bunch of melted chocolate in the bucket when I store these. As you can see here, the silicone molds provide a really good organization for all the individual caramel M&Ms. So now we're going to do a tray that doesn't have this mold. All right, so now we're going to do caramel M&Ms without the mold. When you have them this close together, they're going to clump up, and you just kind of have non-individual pieces for your bags, and in the customers, I feel like don't have like each individual caramel M&M to eat. So that's why I like having those molds, because now when I take them out of the tray and they're done, I have individual caramel M&Ms versus these are all going to stick together, which we'll show you. That was 1 bag of 34 ounces for caramel M&Ms. So that was 1 tray mold and then 1 just scattered all in the tray. So now we're going to do Skittles, and I want to show you 2 different packs that I've purchased when I go and buy Skittles. One is I buy the Skittles in these tubs. These are from Sam's Club, or if you have Costco, you can get these. Now the total ounces in this is 3 pounds, 6 ounces, which is a total net weight of 54 ounces. You can also buy, now although this is a wild berry bag, you can also buy these types of bags, and I buy them from a store that has wholesale. This has 50 ounces in it. And these bags right now locally for me, not the wild berry but original, is running about $10.98. They increased this past year, probably due to inflation. And then these Skittles at Costco were running about $9.78. They've got this seal on these tubs. We're gonna dump the Skittles on this tray. I'm gonna show you that this amount right here, a little bit too crowded, and the reason I know this for me personally is just like the caramel M&Ms, they just get a little bit too bunched up. I don't like having to break apart the Skittles after they're done freeze drying. I don't like the clumps. As you can see with the tray that I just did, you can still see a little bit of the tray, but it's just a little bit too full in my opinion. We're gonna leave this tray as is. In fact, I'm gonna add a little bit more to it. I wanna just show you what it's like when you overfill the Skittles. Like right here, this is just a single layer. You might be like, well, I just like maximizing the tray. I don't like maximizing the tray to the point where they're all stuck together and maybe they're double layered. It just doesn't come out right. All right, so for this next tray, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it my style, which I would recommend because they come out and then they're just a little bit more in individual pieces and there's less that you have to break apart. So this is just the right amount, and you might be like, well, what's the difference? Well, as you can see some of the silver tray. You're gonna have to kind of like eyeball it here, but I like this arrangement of the amount because when we get it out of the freeze dryer here soon, you're gonna see that they kind of are not as bunched up together. Some will be, but not as much, and that's what I like better than the one we just did. So we're gonna do one more tray, and then we're gonna start the cycle. Okay, all the trays are in the freeze dryer, but before we begin the cycle, I do want to invite you to watch a couple of my other videos. I just did a video on Bitto honey. That was a really fun video to do, and it's in one of my top 20 selling freeze-dried items to freeze dry. You can also see how I do Jolly Ranchers and a couple other fruits. So check out other videos on my channel. All right, that 15-minute waiting period is done. So all we're gonna press is this button. It turns to green and says the high temperature mode candy process is ready to go and it's on. We're gonna close the drain valve and press continue. Hey, the two candies are done, and I told you it transforms them from a chewy candy into a crunchy candy. All right, so this is the caramel M&M. If you can see, the caramel pops and transform into a crunchiness, and then you have the chocolate shell out of that. It's so good. Let's give it a taste. Oh, so good. And I'll give you a special tip brought to you from my wife. Keep them refrigerated or frozen. They are fantastic. They're way better than keeping them at room temperature. Okay, so here are the two trays. As you can see, this one right here is the tray that was all clumped together. And the reason I said that I like using the silicone mat, or just the fact that there's just too many on here, is when you break it apart, it creates these bigger clumps, as you can see, and I just prefer having little bite sizes. So that's why with this tray with the silicone mats, you get a single individual caramel M&M, and you can put those in the bag. Now with these silicone mats, it's fairly easy to pop them out. They actually pop out right out of the little hole that they're in, and then you can put them in the bucket that you want. All right, and if you're not familiar with freeze-dried Skittles, Skittles pop and transform into this. This is the crunchy side of a Skittle. It's like eating popcorn, but Skittles. It's delicious. All right, the Skittles are done. Here's how the Skittles turned out. This was the tray that we put together that had a little bit of spacing in it. And as you can see, yes, they're clumped together, but they're not as deeply connected as you might think. So they easily kind of drop off and create individual Skittles just like you got out of the bag. Now this is the tray that we had very little spacing on. It's just very compact. You have to kind of break apart the bigger chunks of pieces to get those individual Skittles. If you look at this, it creates a whole big chunk. I don't like having these big chunks. I like having individual Skittles just like you're used to out of the bag. That's a wrap on this video. These are the two easiest candies you can do for your freeze-dried business. If you haven't tried the caramel M&Ms, please do. They're delicious. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to my channel if you're a freeze-dried business owner, or if you just like to follow this freeze-dried craze. I'd love for you to join the community. Have a great day. We'll see you again next time.